Welcome to r/malicious compliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. The first story: I filed my resignation letter and got a terrible manager. The second story: woman wanted to buy non-working batteries and did not listen to me. As a result, she did not hear anything on her anniversary. The third story: police chief's wife violated traffic rules and I wrote her a ticket. And the first story is, well, I did give them 2 weeks notice. So about a dozen years ago, I was in a great paying job, but the work environment was absolutely atrocious. I spent the entire year I was there looking for another job. Finally got an offer elsewhere, at a hefty pay cut, but leapt at it. Now this place, a very small company, said they were looking for a mid-level software developer. They realized I was a senior developer, but the manager said, I'm not really sure what to offer, as we've never hired a senior developer before. That explanation sounds a little funny, but ultimately it turned out as such. They'd start me out at X dollars a year, a mid-level developer's salary, and at my 1-year review they'd give me a raise of somewhere between Y dollars and Z dollars depending on how things went, where Z equals 2 times Y, and it would have amounted to somewhere between a 6 to 12% raise. It's just a salary with benefits, no bonuses, but I was fine with that. A little weird that they try to start new employees with only 1 week of vacation time instead of 2. The way every other place I'd worked does, but they offered me the 2 up front. So I did some work on a legacy product, but they mostly had me working on some completely new feature that integrated with the existing product. A year goes by and I like the place. It's small, but the team is good, and they had me move them to using Eclipse. They were using a text editor, albeit a text editor that had a very convenient compile this source file now feature. Most of the team loved it, and the assistant manager was so delighted with the IDE that she stated, I'll give it up when they pry it from my cold dead fingers. So I do a little work on the legacy project. I do a lot of work on the new project, and I work on some customer conversions, converting their data to work with our software when they were on a different software before. I also did refactoring, trying to, actually make use of parent and child classes properly, rather than relying on the massive amount of copy and paste and code duplication that existed there. Me and one of the other guys, call him Z, who was my mentor to the company, but I was his mentor in furthering his programming style, tried to convince the manager to let us set up a source control system. The current system was that everyone worked off of a single copy of the source code on a shared network drive, which was backed up to tape every night. The manager resisted. We even suggested he let us take one of the old junk PCs from the storage room and set up a very small repository, just to experiment with, and make sure it worked as we planned, i.e. Hello World and programs and files of that small scale, before trying to move their stuff to it. Manager wouldn't budge. My review is late, several months late, but we were busy, and the manager said it was the most busy year he recalls them having. Also, I'd scheduled my 2 weeks of vacation so that I could fly out to visit my parents. During this time, I'd gotten calls about other jobs, but I mostly blew them off. I knew for a fact where my salary would be when I got my review, and I was happy with that. Still, the calls came here and there. My review finally comes and is almost glowing. 1 or 2 minor hiccups, but overall they were very pleased with me. My raise? $0. Well, I can't really present a raise to the owner, since you haven't mastered any pieces of the legacy software. I mean, I had you working on the new stuff, but there was always time for learning on the legacy system. There was always time during their busiest year ever, so busy that my review was 5 months late. I grumbled. The 2 guys I worked with the most were jaw-dropping shocked when I told them, although one of the older guys there did sort of say words to the effect of, I can't say that's the first time that's happened here. I dug up the old email from before I was hired and forwarded it to him. He took several days to respond. He never takes that long to respond. He came up with some cockamamie word games about how things didn't go that well this year, trying to play the, oh, I meant going well overall, not going well with your performance. So I kept working anyway, but I followed up on the most recent call about a potential job. It was the same pay I was making at this place, but with bonuses and better benefits, and half the distance and time to drive, none of the tolls. I snuck out to the interview at the new place. Seemed to go well and we struck a deal. I gave them a start date of after my vacation. Went back to my current job and played along for a little bit. They also went to job fairs looking to hire someone straight out of college. Also, now the manager was interested in source control. One of the other developers said, well, last year it was your idea, but this year it's his idea. Interestingly, I briefly met the one graduating student that they eventually hired. So it comes up to the point where my vacation is about to start. I go down to the CTO's office and give my 2 weeks notice the day before my leave. He seemed a little thrown by that and commented something about how they usually expect to have the 2 weeks to transition. I said I agreed with him, but I pointed out that my manager made certain promises. My review was glowing, and my raise somehow was 0. He didn't quite address that, but made a cryptic sort of comment. X doesn't really share very well. I never knew if that meant my manager doesn't let the rest of them know what he did, or meant that he somehow benefits from keeping the cost down. I later was given to understand that the CTO and the owner might well have known, or been in on the plan to stiff me on the raise. I did have to talk with my manager, of course, and he did say, well, I guess I'm the bad guy on this, though he didn't seem particularly remorseful. There was a shocking moment of candor, but we did get what we needed from you. I suspect that the manager's raise was based on how well he did cost control, though. I mean, I was driving an older vehicle, and the manager was driving a newish Acura SUV. But giving my 2 weeks notice on the day before my vacation was my malicious compliance that I took with great relish. Epilogue. Years later, I'm working at another company about 2 miles from that place. A colleague of mine actually told me he was going to interview at the place with the D-bag manager. He also told me who was interviewing him, Z. Z was a good guy, and one of the two that was shocked at my lack of raise. I told my buddy, yeah, Z's a good guy, but ask him if X is going to be your manager, because if so, you're not interested. Z actually told my colleague, yeah, HRM King V was great, and while I was his mentor at the company here, I felt more like he was a mentor to me. X did screw him, but don't worry, X isn't part of the picture for this job. Also, that new person we hired, she says she can always tell when she runs into HRM King V's code. The code style is so much better. My colleague ultimately didn't take the job with them, though. It seems to me that you should have written these conditions in the contract and handed it to your superiors, because now you can't prove anything. You were too naive not to demand that all the conditions be spelled out in the contract. I had something similar, and the job was very far from my home, but I took it because the pay conditions weren't so bad. There were a couple of phone interviews, and in each one I was told that after the first 6 months, there would be bonuses and the money would go up. I agreed and worked my way to the bottom for 6 months. We were insanely busy. There was a lot of work to do. I was hoping to get bonuses. It wasn't bad, but I never saw the promised bonuses. When I asked why they didn't add money to my paycheck, they used the exact words, "You didn't work hard enough. What else are you going to do to justify a pay raise?" I submitted my letter of resignation, found another job a week later. The next story is, Happy Anniversary, B, XOXO. I worked as a receptionist and customer service person at an audiologist for the first half of my 20s. This boomer B comes in for batteries for her hearing aids, and I look her name up in the system, see her type of hearing aids and get her the correct batteries called 675s. She looks at the packet and says they're the wrong battery type. I show her on the computer the type of batteries, and place them in her own hearing aids and the hearing aid works. Any other type of battery would be too small, hence not work, and also get stuck anyway. But she insists no, it has to be P675. This just says 675. And I'm trying to explain to her it's the same thing. The manufacturer just changed the packaging so the P isn't there anymore. And she keeps going on about how her audiologist kept hammering in that it has to have P for power. I show her the back of the packaging that has the P on it, but it's still not enough, and it doesn't look like the ones that work. Then she goes on about how the audiologist would know more about batteries than just a receptionist. And how would I know? I'm just a receptionist. Mind you, she's a difficult client, and we all know her at the center. Her audiologist in the next room sending me chats saying, I never effing said that, because it's 15 minutes before close on a Friday, and we just want to go home, and her audiologist doesn't want to speak with her because it'd be more time wasted. I'm like, you know what, fine. So I go in the back and get expired batteries with the old packaging on, because the good ones with the old packaging were all gone already, and give them to her, and since those were the ones she wanted, I am now closing the center. I wrote alert notes for the next person who deals with Array about how she didn't want to take fresh new batteries because the packaging was different. So she's all happy with herself and leaves. Weekend goes by. I didn't work at that center again for a week because I was at another center, but I check up her notes and it said, client very frustrated and upset today, had 50th anniversary weekend with friends and family, and couldn't hear a thing because batteries weren't working. Did packaging training with customer to clarify batteries and new packaging will work. Hope you enjoyed your anniversary, B. XOXO. Haha, I'm laughing my A off. Such a stubborn Karen. Spent her anniversary and heard nothing. I feel sorry for her a little bit, but D, she wanted other batteries. Haha. I think next time she'll listen to the counselor and accept his help. She did it on her own. She got what she asked for and she didn't listen to the information. The OP did exactly what she asked for. The OP tried her best to fix it when this client was wrong. Nah, screw it. She's insufferable. The lady just acted like a bee. When you have batteries that small, literally no other size will fit in your devices. The fact that she was given new batteries and they worked, but she still insisted they were wrong astounds me. I think she should see a doctor in person about the little things, even if it's not necessary. She got what she wanted, so she suffered the consequences. Customer service is poison to the soul for most people, and they don't run away when they should. You do it too long and that SH leaves a mark. The last story is police malicious compliance. So a long time ago, my papa was a brand new rookie member of law enforcement in a small town. There was a particular captain known for being an angry guy. The type of guy who'd chuck a stapler at your head if he was angry. Let's call him Captain Hard-A. So at a shift meeting, Captain Hard-A had an issue with the lack of tickets being written at a particular red light. A city council member had almost gotten into a traffic accident due to someone running a red. He commanded, "You're gonna go down and sit on that intersection and you're gonna write tickets. I don't care who they are." So after the meeting, my papa was the first to head down to the light. He didn't want to get in trouble for not complying with the captain's orders. Within 5 minutes of watching the intersection, someone runs to the light, and boy did they run it good. My papa pulls the driver over, and what do you know, it's the chief of police's wife. So being a good cop, my papa greets her by name and writes her a ticket. The lady is livid. She asks what'll happen if she refuses to sign the ticket. His voice quivers as he says, "Well, Mrs. Police Chief, I'm gonna have to arrest you." Realizing he was serious, she angrily snatches the ticket out of his hand and hastily signs it. The next day, my papa gets called into Captain Hard-A's office. Other cops had been prepping my papa for this moment, but instead of yelling, the captain wearily asks, "Don't you think you could have seen fit to have given her a break?" My papa, sweating bullets, responds, "I wanted to, Captain, but you said," and Captain Hard-A slumped down in his seat, defeated. Later on, my mama was working at a fundraiser with the chief's wife. The chief's wife didn't realize my mama was the wife of the officer that wrote her ticket, so she complains to my mama about the ticket and the conversation she'd had with her husband after. It went something like this: "Police chief, did you do it?" Wife, "Yes." Police chief, "Well then quit complaining." Because the town was small, her ticket was reported to the local newspaper. My papa never heard a word about it from the chief. Oh my god, karma exists, haha. You were following orders and that's the best thing that could have happened. Fate itself presented you with this revenge and malicious compliance. I often observed this phenomenon when I was in the military. Spouses, sometimes husbands but mostly wives of officers or senior non-commissioned officers, begin to think that they have the rank of their spouse and deserve the attendant privileges. I think this wife deserves a ticket even though her husband is your superior. You're a very brave man because most cops wouldn't write a ticket to their boss. But she broke the rules and ran a red light, so fair enough. She probably expected you not to notice the infraction and forgive her because she's the wife of the chief of police. If I was married to a police chief, I'd be dying of shame if I was caught breaking the law. Subscribe, hit the like button, and have a good day.